Hey y'all, Quabila Jones here, host of the Q Spot podcast. Make sure to be intentional with your words, your thoughts, and your actions. And please subscribe, like, follow, share, and hit the notification bell. With Rebecca Jones and Latoya Shead discussing Losing You, Finding Me. Hey y'all, QB here. Welcome to
Hello.
edition of the Q Spot podcast video series. I am joined by some wonderful, wonderful, wonderful ladies. Like that doesn't even begin to describe who they are and what they've accomplished so far in their life. With so much more to go. I have with me my dear friend Latoya Shead and my also dear friend, Miss Pretty Girl with the weird pearls, Rebecca Gregory, who's on her way to PhD. So Dr. Rebecca Gregory.
I received that.
How y'all doing today, ladies?
Good.
I'm doing
Nervous.
well. Doing well.
Before we get started, I want to let everyone know the conversation is about losing you, finding me. And so this is centered around we're all divorced. We all have gone through a series of things in our lives. And we had some setbacks, but we were down for a minute, but not out. But this is not about me. I want people to hear your stories and how you bounce back, in spite of all the things that did happen. And so you can share as little or as a lot, whatever you feel comfortable with. But first, I want to let people know Toya is a banging musician right here in Jonesboro, Arkansas. I met her when I was in beauty school to do nails, which I'm not doing, but anyway. And it's like you just know your paths are meant to cross. At the time, Toya was this bright light in school. No matter what was happening, Toya was the one that everyone gravitated towards. And I'm so blessed that I met you. I'm so blessed that I met you. Me and Rebecca, we go way back, like snapback. No, we go. We go back to the 90s. I was K-Star, she was Arkansas at Arkansas State University, but our paths crossed and only God ordained that, and so here we are 20 plus odd years later, still in each other's lives. And so I've had the privilege of talking to both of you all about your divorces, your marriages and things. And I actually know your, exes. And so just to see where you ladies are now, I'm going to stop talking and I'm going to let you all share, as much or as little of your stories you like. So we'll start with Miss Latoya.
Okay. My name is Latoya Gilbert Shead.
I'm sorry. I said she. Shed.
Said it's fine. Everybody did messes up. I promise you it's fine. I am the owner and operator of Blessed Hands Designs. I have been in business with the name Blessed Hands Designs since 2010.
Okay.
And I started pursuing that business in 2013. So where I met Q at hair school. So from there, I just been trying to get things going, prospering more into the business.
Yeah.
That's one baby I held on to for real. I wasn't letting go of that one. But as far as that goes, that's my business. I'm also one of the teachers at Look What I Can Do Daycare in Brooklyn.
Oh, okay.
And I'm single. And I am 38 years old. I'm the oldest of 10. And I have no children yet. I have 7 godchildren, and I have many children that I've taken care of. So none of my own yet, but soon to come. When that bridge comes to me, I'll be ready.
Alrighty then. So let's talk about, since we're talking about losing him or losing you, the him, and finding yourself, let's talk about, some of the things that you endured. I don't want to say endured, the things you experienced in your marriage. And not to say all marriages are horrible, bad. However, it ended for a reason. So let's get into a little bit of that.
Okay. I was married for 20 years. 20 years. I got married when I was 16. Married when I was 16. And throughout those years, I looked at it as like a book. Each chapter you go through, the first chapter of a book is always good. The second chapter, you try to wonder what's going on. But then when that third chapter comes, you about ready to give up the book. So, and that's how I looked at it. And I said, well, you know what? I was going to keep trying, got into ministry, had lots of counseling. And it was just that I was looking at everybody else's marriage and looking how happy they were. And they was excited doing about what they were doing. And I was wondering, okay, well, why I can't do what Toya wants to do. So as a husband and wife couple, we got counseling multiple times. And it was just as though everything that I wanted to do kept getting pushed to the side. And I didn't kind of understand, because Toya was, listen to the ministry, people in the ministry. Oh, well, that's your husband. You do for your husband. You do that for your husband. Make sure he has this. And, that's what Toya did. I put Toya on the back burner to make everything for him comfortable and everything that he wanted. But as the years grew on, and I start to constantly see everybody wants to, do what they want to do as far as the marriage, but they're doing it as a couple, as one. And that's where a lot of mistakes came from in our marriage, because every time we tried to do as one, we could never get as one. It was always that one, And that's what kind of disturbed me, because it was as though nothing that I wanted to do mattered, as long as I keep doing what was for him. So throughout the years, it just got to the point where, I wasn't seeing me anymore. I wasn't loving me, and that's what took a toll. And that's what the weight gain and everything, because I fell into a state of depression. Even though my counselors and everybody kept on saying that, you're depressed, then, the church tell you don't let folks speak stuff on you. So I kept not letting, depression, but it set in that, hey, I'm depressed, like for real. I'm really having mental breakdowns and everything. But when you seen Toya was always smiling, because I didn't want to believe what was going on behind closed doors. The more I prayed, the more I tried to make things work. It was like a kick constantly against it, and everybody, oh, that ain't nothing but the devil, keep going with it. Well, coming up into 2015, when I got my own business, well, I had my business till 2017. I got sick. And that's when things start to look up for me like, this person I'm with truly don't care for me, truly. And I just said, okay, God, if he is for me, isn't he supposed to care for me as I care for him? So when I went into counseling in the ministry, they, basically said that what the wife wanted didn't matter. And yeah. And I was like, that just don't sound right, because if God said for you to love your wife as Christ loved the church, then the wife should matter somewhere, And 2017, after I got sick and everything, happened with my weight loss and everything, I started to see that jealousy come back up. And when that jealousy kicked in, everything behind it start kicking in, and I just looked at, I'm out here telling marriages, to keep strong, do this for your husband, do that for your husband. And at the same time, I'm looking at everybody marriage and they're happy. Me, on the other hand, I was happy somewhere. And, as we roll into 2018, I decided, I'm going to do me. I'm going to do what I want to do. I'm going to talk to my friends, hang out with my friends, plan trips. And, I start to do that. And in 2018, that's when things start to look a whole lot clearer to me, that this man that I was with no longer loved me and no longer cared for me. He was just okay with what I was doing for him. That's all that mattered. As long as I was doing for him, everything was peaches and cream. Well, 2019, when he told me to move out of his house, I knew then it wasn't us no more. So that's what I did. I moved out and I wanted to regain Toya. That's what I wanted to do. To regain me, find the love that I have for myself, find what I wanted to do in life that I put on hold, And that's, as far as my marriage goes, that's how, I ended up, taking a stand, staying with friend girls from house to house and, just trying to get things better for me. End up getting in a relationship too soon, end up hurting myself again, So after that, I filed for separation. Due to the fact that I filed for separation, they told me I had to wait 6 months to file for a divorce. So after the 6 months of me filing for a divorce, that's when around March, that was my deadline. And I let him know, well, such and such, the divorce is this and that, and he said, well, you want it, you get it, And I just looked at that like, he's trying to upset me. But, I'm going to be happy in this because Toya is going to be Toya. Love her, So that's March was the file of the divorce. Even though I had to do a lot of, things in that. But, and finalized June 1st after 20 years. So, yeah.
Alrighty. So we're going to go back around because in that process, in that time frame, there's a lot of emotions and things. So we're going to come back around. I want to get Rebecca in on this conversation.
Okay.
She has a story to share. Like, she's been very open and candid, and even wrote a book about it. so Miss Rebecca, come on with it. Right, do I need to get my tissue or something? Cause
no, I don't think so.
Okay.
You've heard my story multiple times, but I am Rebecca Gregory, owner of RG Coaching Consulting, and let's see. I don't think I've ever told my story about from beginning to the end. So I was married for 10 years total on paper. 5 years actually together, 5 years separated. So that was that's a whole nother story. But the marriage started off on shaky ground. Infidelity was a thing in the beginning, and it was something that I thought that we could handle. We could deal with, we could forgive, we could move on, and things would get better. And for a while it seemed like it did. But what doesn't come out in the wash or come out in the rinse, is that the saying? And so, as time progressed, true colors began to show, and it's not a slight towards my ex-spouse, but it's just the reality of what happened. And infidelity kept being an issue, and so he ended up moving out when our daughter was 6 months old. I think it was fall of 2005, and I was like Toya too, praying, believing God, all this other stuff, and rightfully so. That's what you should do. But it was also a part of me that was in denial of the reality that I was living in. Trying to have that faith and that hope, in believing that it was going to be a miraculous turnaround. And so, dealing with marital issues is tough, but when it becomes marital issues and third parties involved, it's a completely a different level of toughness, because that's when you start, of course, to take everything personally. And I did. I took his choices as rejection, and internalized it. And so I just did not feel accepted anywhere, by anybody or anything, because if the person that I'm supposed to spend the rest of my life with isn't accepting me, why would anybody else? And so it was just it was a more of a mind battle for me. And I finally, after much counseling, individual counseling, and talking to friends that had good sense, and not just, somebody who was emotional with, because it was my situation was very public.
Okay.
And everybody saw me go through publicly, and it wasn't a good vision. It wasn't a good sight. And so some of my friends and family were, rightfully upset at what I was going through. So they were just like, be done. And I just couldn't. It was a part of me that was still holding on, still fighting, still believing for my family. Because at this time we had 2 small children. And so I didn't want to just throw away what I thought was something good. And so I fought. But eventually, I got tired, and I I don't think I've ever shared this part, but I told him that I was going to file for divorce.
Okay.
And it didn't go the way I thought it was gonna go. I guess he thought I was playing. And so he thought I was playing, thought it was, I was like, I'm done. When I'm done, I'm done. And so I ended up not filing for divorce. He did. And showed up at my job with the papers and everything. And I was like, okay, I'll have my lawyer review them, and then, we'll go from there. And so I signed the papers. It was nothing to really get from the marriage financially. Yeah. So it wasn't, a whole bunch of red tape we had to go through. I wasn't contesting anything. I just wanted to be done and to be able to start my life over. And so signed the papers, and I didn't even know if the papers had really been filed or not. He wouldn't tell me anything. So I'm just sitting in limbo, waiting to see, am I divorced or what, what's happening? So I called the courthouse because it was uncontested. It was 30 days,
Okay.
And so I called the courthouse, and I was like, I'm just trying to follow up and see what's happening. Am I still married or not? And the clerk laughed at me. I was like, I'm so serious. And so she was like, well, as of January 3rd, 2011, you are divorced. I said, well, thank you so much. Wow. And I went to sleep. And I slept for a day and a half, I think. Yeah. So all of that stress and all of that weight lifted. And I thought that I was getting ready to live my best life and, about to just restart and revive. And then, no, 2011 was the absolute worst year of my life. That is when everything, and in retrospect, I look at it as all of the old me was starting to fall off.
Okay.
Everything that I had built up, and all these walls and all these mindsets and facades and all of that were gone or were leaving. And it came through hard trials. Lost my home, lost my car, lost my job. And kind of like Toya, I moved in with close friends, and it was just bad. And so I'm sure I didn't go to a therapist or anything, but I'm sure I was depressed and just in a really, really low place. And what got me moving again was my children, and knowing that they had to have a parent that was going to be there physically and someone that they could depend on visibly. And so that's what got me up and moving and all of that. And I'll share more later, but yeah, that's the gist of it. Okay. So it was a rocky road.
Some people don't understand, like, I don't want to pick on this younger generation, but they think marriage is fun and cool and, this is trendy. Mm-hmm. Marriage is beautiful and all of that.
Absolutely.
It's work. You don't just say, oh, I want to get married. And, oh, okay. What are you bringing to the table mentally, emotionally, spiritually? Like, it's a whole bunch, And so if that other person, well, if you two are not on one accord, then, something ain't going to work.
Right.
My story.
Go ahead.
My story is like, y'all, there was infidelity, there was dragging, there was, I don't know if I really want to do this, so there were so many elements to it, and then I stuck it out, like I stuck it out way too long because this gonna work,
Mm-hmm. And it's not that and a lot of people portray you as weak for remaining in that situation. Exactly. And you're not understanding. I pledged my life to this person, and I made a vow, and I wanted to stick with that vow. So it's not something that you just casually say, okay, you know what I'm saying, like some dirty jeans, and you just throw them in the laundry. You know, it was something that you really have to, like you said, have that mindset to work on and to be mature to go
Exactly.
after everything. I have my
Try your best.
yeah, it's not for the fainted heart. It's not for somebody who's just trying to be
Mm-mm.
beautiful in their wedding pictures. It's not, you know, you just want to be cute. Just go
Come
get you
on now.
a picture, baby. Don't get married. You know, marriage is real deal work. And it's
Look,
Okay.
absolutely beautiful. I believe in marriage. I believe 100% in marriage. And I have
100%.
some very beautiful examples of marriage. But if you're not willing to put in the work, you're not willing to sacrifice
Don't do it.
what you sometimes it's what you don't think you're going to sacrifice. If you're not willing to do that, then don't even, baby, don't don't waste nobody's time, don't waste no money. Don't you spend thousands of dollars on nothing if you're not ready for all of that.
I promise.
So I want to talk about this aspect. You know, when you're going through and you know when the end is nearing or when it's here, um, there's so many emotions that start swirling
Mhm.
like a hurricane. It's like the perfect storm, tornado, hurricane, tsunami. You know, and
All of
so
it.
you're still trying to go to work, raise your kids. And I'm not talking in your case, you don't have any children. However, the people in your life are going
Mhm.
through that with you, your mom, your aunt, sister. So, you know, you have this sister that you're really close with. And so they're all going through this with you. They're watching
Mhm.
you. And so it's like you're trying to hold it together with speed and glue. You're trying to keep it together for them. You're trying, you know, so all these elements and then
I
things are working
promise
against you. So let's talk about that emotional aspect of as you're going through when you
Mhm.
finally made the decision, I'm done.
you.
I don't know, but I'm done, you know. So between that I'm done and the actual signing of the papers, what was that emotional roller coaster like for both of you? Toya.
Ooh. With me, man, I guess I was just my whole mindset. I want to burn stuff down. Like no, when I tell you, you know how they say the devil will give you a plan, lay it out perfect for you. I knew I was gonna get away with it. I knew it. The vandalizing of the vehicle, the whole. I knew I was gonna get it, man. When I tell you, I would have got away with JB would have never found out. But those were the emotions because I was looking at the fact that I went into this still in high school. I was a teenager when I went in there. So what hurt me the most is because I looked at it like all that time I wasted.
Wow. Mhm.
We could have opted out of this after the 5 years we were together, you know. But just listening to everybody instead of listening to myself at the time, it just man, no. When I tell you them emotions was something serious, I drunk almost every night.
Wow.
I cried almost every night. I was staying with my girl. She never knew. I sat down in her living room 24/7 crying
Wow.
at night because it was like I was literally looking at the fact that all I had put into the marriage of my whole 20 years of my life, whether, the ups and downs of everything, the cries, the tears, the verbal abuse, the cheating and everything. I had went through all of that and just that's why I say it was some stuff that I wanted to do, some fires, some sledgehammer stuff, some broken windows, I promise wait until it's tail like Angela Bassett move. I promise you. I
Loaded up.
promise you that the
Yeah.
panic attacks I went through, and then I hurt myself even more because I was trying to leave that and go into another love and hurt myself even more. And when I tell you that I wouldn't get on none of the medications the doctor would give me, none of them, none of it, because I was afraid that it was going to destroy my mind more. So I went into counseling. I literally got a counselor out of Memphis. And when I tell you, she opened my eyes to a lot of stuff, and no one knew I had a counselor. Nobody, my mama, my sister, girlfriend, nobody knew. I literally spoke to this woman twice a week from before I moved out of my girlfriend's house into me getting back on my feet. I spoke to this woman, and when I tell you, she opened my eyes to so much, just let me see who I was as a person, because I was looking at, okay, Toy, you cheated, Toy, you didn't do this, you didn't do that. So I had all them emotion because I felt like I failed in the marriage. And, she just opened my eyes of me just telling her everything throughout the whole marriage, the cheating, the fighting, everything. And she just said, well, Toya, you're like any other woman. You just tried. That's all you did. You just tried. And here I am, was about ready to condemn myself. It literally had got to the point where I was in my friend girl car. She was letting me use her car, and I was leaving work, and I literally had a mind to run out in this car in front of a semi.
Wow.
And just be done. I will never forget. This was in September of 2019. I will never forget. And I I said, God, if it's any reason for me to still be here, show me. And I had got a call before I got an inbox. I had got a call from somebody I haven't spoke to in years. And she encouraged me so much. And she said, wow. Toya, just go home. Go home. Go home. It's not going to work. You can jump out in front of it. You going to live through it. And I just bust out laughing. In my mind, I'm like, if I hit this semi, it's over with. This little bitty car gonna crush me the whole nine. And when I end up getting in the car, and I end up talking to the person that inboxed me. And I got to my girlfriend's house. And I had told her what I was gonna do. She said, "Nah, you weren't gonna do it in my car. My car covered. My car covered. The angels would have blocked that. Everything. That car wouldn't have had a scratch on it." I just busted out laughing. Because the plan in my head, it was gonna work,
Yeah. Wow.
But those were the emotions that I went through. And a lot of people kind of talked down on me, talked against me. People in ministry, people that have been knowing me for years, they was like, "Oh, girl, you crazy. 20 years, girl, ain't no way I would have worked that out. I would have." And I had one particular person, she just kept on saying, "Well, you just keep praying, you just keep praying." I said, "But what do you do when you've prayed everything that you can pray?"
Child.
And she couldn't say nothing. She could not say nothing. She just shook her head. And I said, so what you gonna tell me, to pray? I said, what can you do when you have prayed and prayed and prayed and cried and fasted on that situation? Talking to my counselor, she was saying, I understand your ministry and everything. She said, but you got to think about it. These things come by fasting and praying. Maybe you fasting and praying, that may not have been where God wants you to fast and pray about. Oh. So I was like, well, okay. I said, well, I'm through. I'm through it. Maybe this is, and when I went back and discussed and talked to him, and told him, I forgive you, asked him for forgiveness from me and everything. And he just looked at me and he was like, well, remember, you chose this. And I looked at him, I'm like, wow, that's it, And I said, all right. I said, I love you. I pray the best for you. And that was it. I continued to go forth into this divorce and had my way in it. And when I tell you, when the judge hit that gavel down, y'all broke out in the whole shout. I shook the elevator, because if y'all had felt the break I felt, man, I got in that parking lot, started shouting again. My sister looked at me. She's like, "You okay?" I said, "Give me a minute. Give me a minute." When I tell you, a heavy lift just fell off of me, like, oh. So Rebecca, I understand when you said that load, that fat man. I probably felt like a whole person just fell off my back, and I instantly, it was like instantly, I said to myself, "Your life can start now." And bam, that's when I went and I started working even harder. When they started opening back the salons and stuff, I when I tell you, a sister was on it, got my first car, got me into my apartment, and honey, I'm when I tell you, I thank God for just continue to guide me through each and everything. Even though I had a lot of
Mhm.
people say, oh, you're not following right, you're not doing right, and you're gonna reap what you sow, and I'm looking like, wow, you know people in ministry, in God, yeah, they wanted to see me
Wow.
fall. Yeah. And that's what kind of got me, because I looked at the fact, if you're in God, then you should be encouraging me.
Mm-hmm.
No matter what decision I chose, you should continue to encourage me.
Right.
No matter who I date, no matter uh, what I go through, that you see, you still should be encouraging me to say, okay, Toy, you can do this, girl, you got this. But it was the people outside of ministry that
Wow.
told me, I can do this. You're
Wow.
strong for this. Women can carry so much. You ain't had no kids, honey. Go do what you need to get done. I said, wow. Why? Because most people, they go to ministry. Well, what you think I need to do? And it's sad when the ministry couldn't even help me. They couldn't even tell me. They just want to tell me everything to go against. And it's sad when people on the outside of the
Mhm.
ministry is the ones that encouraged me and told me, you can do this. You got this. You're stronger
Mhm.
than this.
Wow.
But yeah, yeah,
Mm,
yeah.
mm, mm. Lord, all right, Rebecca, come on, take us on out. Take us.
Uh, oh, shoot. Well, I can relate definitely to the feelings of anger. Um, like you said, it's a tsunami of emotions. The anger, um, I think that was the second emotion. The first one was hurt
Yeah.
and or disappointment. And it wasn't just in him, but it was just the fact that my marriage had failed. And so I ultimately, like Toya, felt like a failure. I felt like, it was my fault. I should have fought harder. Just a whole bunch of different things going through my head. Toya, wait a minute.
I
Mm-mm.
know, girl. I was trying to keep y'all from seeing it. Leave that alone.
but the hurt comes and then the anger comes. I knew I was done, or I knew I should have been done when I was almost like 22, almost caught a charge. And I was about to be Jasmine Sullivan, busting the windows out your car and all that stuff. It was real. And one of my dear friends, we were at a function at the church, and I got some news, and she didn't even know what had happened. She was on the other side of the room, but it was Jesus, had to be. She looked up and she saw me heading towards the door. I was going to my car and I was going to do whatever damage came to me. And she ran out of that church and grabbed me and held me and would not let me go until I calmed down. I didn't make any kind of commotion. If you didn't know, you would not know something was wrong because I quietly walked out the door. Yeah, the psycho mess. Walked out the door and went to my car and was about to go act a fool. And
That was
she
all
caught me.
colorful moment.
It was Jesus all the way. She grabbed me, she hugged me, she would not let me go. And I knew then that if I had been moved to that point, I was that angry and that hurt, then it was time to do something. And so I did like Toya too. I fasted and I prayed. I fasted at the beginning of October, and I fasted 21 days. And I really, really, really was fasting and praying. And on our anniversary, I decided that I was going to divorce. It was a whole bunch of different things that I asked God to show, to tell, to say, to speak, whatever, and He did all of that. And my last thing to really help me with that decision, because I struggled, because the church preaches really hard divorces. God is not pleased with divorce. And so that was a really big thing for me. I felt like I was letting God down more so than anything. And then I was going to be in this, this whirlwind of trouble and all this other stuff. And I never, just a bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
So I went to my first lady at the time and I talked to her and she was like, of course, I'm not going to give you the answer. That is a personal decision that you have to make, and which is what anybody would say. She said, but I will tell you this. She said, I can tell you that it is not a thing where you're displeasing God. If, in my case, if there's biblical grounds for it and you have done all that you know to do to preserve it and it still has not, then you do what you need to do. She said, but do not think for one moment that you are letting God down. He has watched your fight and watched your struggle. And, that was very freeing for me because it was something that was holding me back. And so that let the emotion go, of disappointment and hurt and fear because I was afraid to make that decision for that reason. And then just never being in that place, never, really seeing anybody deal with the aftermath of divorce like that. I'd seen divorces, of course, but it was, I don't know, it was just different for me. And so the fear of going into the unknown again, was very difficult. And I didn't do like Latoya. I did not get a therapist. I should have. Definitely should have. So I took the scenic route to my mind being free. But I did have some people that I could talk to, and it was very few because I didn't, at this point, trust was gone with everybody. I didn't trust anybody. And so I didn't trust anybody with my emotions. I didn't trust anybody with, the reality of what I was dealing with without I told you so, or without a condemnation or, anything like that. So I was very limited, very selective in who I shared my raw emotions with. And so that helped. But it was, for me, it was facing the reality that helped me deal with the emotion of the reality. Once I faced it and realized, girl, you about to be all the way divorced, and that's how I talked to myself. And so once I did that, then it was a little bit easier to deal with the emotions. But I did realize, like when I said 2011 was the worst year, that there was still some residue and things that I did not deal with because I went automatically into survival mode because I had to take care of home and take care of my kids. So I didn't have time to just deal with everything at once. And so later on, I realized there's some residue. Even now, there's still some stuff that I thought was gone, but I really had just tucked it deep down within. And some it's triggered in another way. I'm like, wait, where is this coming from? So the whirlwind of emotions, they're gonna come. I don't care if you initiated the divorce, if y'all scream, I hate you, you gave a piece of you to that person, whether it was 2 weeks or like 20 years, 40 years, you gave a piece of you to that person. And so the emotions are gonna come. And just knowing how to deal with them is going to be the biggest part of the process. And, I think that's what, because even now divorce is trendy. Marriage is trendy. Divorce is trendy. Everybody's trending. So they're making it look glamorous. And it's not. It is not glamorous at all. Divorce sucks big time. And, it's the thing that I said is close. It's like a death. And anytime you lose a loved one, you have to process it. Divorce, you have to process. I don't care how angry you are at that person, you still have to process that divorce, that separation, that reimagining yourself, because you became a whole different person when you took on the title of spouse, whether you husband or wife. When you took on the title of spouse, your old self went away. And you're not going to get that person back. You might, revisit some things that you used to do and rekindle some passions that you had, but you're not going to get that person who you were before you were married. And I think a lot of people who are leaning towards divorce, they have this vision Yeah, I said that they're gonna go back to who. No, baby, that person long gone and gone, whether you want them to be or not. And I think that was something that I struggled with. I wanted to be who I was before I was married, and it wasn't possible. And so it took me a minute to get past the get myself back. You just gonna it's a new you that's coming through. And so I think that was a part of the emotions for me. I had to say goodbye to the old Rebecca. I had to say goodbye to the marriage. I had to say goodbye to a whole lot of different things. And so that was the difficult part and the freeing part for me.
Wow. Awesome. Thank you, ladies, so much for sharing that. So now let's focus on present day. You are thriving in your career paths. Latoya, you have your own building now, salon. Yeah.
Yes.
With your name on it. Nothing but God got you to this point. Because if you hadn't made the choices the devil wanted you to make, you probably wouldn't be.
Wouldn't have never seen it, honey. I would have got caught somewhere. I promise you.
She'd be in jail.
So, but
thank God.
Rebecca, you have a coaching business. You inspire, encourage, uplift women every single day with all of your messaging, on a personal level, and like on a in private sessions or in the public sphere. You are encouraging, empowering, you're uplifting, you're giving women the tools they need to, like you said, carry on to the next day, to the next moment in life, no matter what comes upon you. You finished multiple degrees, you're working on something else, and you have a new love in your life. Can we talk about
that? I love it.
What we talking about? The new love.
Whatever. Career, love, whatever.
Okay. Now, it kind of all ties in together.
Okay.
I didn't finish my degree through Arkansas State. It was many reasons. And so that was always a big thing for me to finish my degree. And, I wasn't able to do it through ASU. And so I really thought, at that time that I wasn't going to ever get my degree. So I kind of given up on that dream a little bit. I was just, settling to work and pay bills and, be okay. All the while, all the stuff is still burning inside of me. And I had told a couple of girlfriends that I was, gonna leave Jonesboro. And I didn't know when. I knew that it would be before the year that I told them that. I knew it would be before the end of the year, but I didn't know, how. I had nothing. I just knew that I was not going to be in Jonesboro. And I knew that it was necessary for me to leave Jonesboro. I'm not telling anybody to do what I did, but it worked for me. And I knew that's the direction that the Lord was taking me. But, and so I just thought that I was leaving to start over, a new career, new job, whatever. And it went so completely bigger than what I thought it was going to be. After I told my girlfriends, of course, I had another friend who was set to be a matchmaker, and she was determined to get me. I'm like, okay. So she asked me would I go out to dinner with this guy, and she said, if nothing else, it's a free meal. And, I was like, okay, fine. And so that free meal turned into a new love. And it wasn't just, I wasn't looking to just date, but I needed someone who was going to be a purpose pusher for me. Because I knew, my track record. I knew I could get lazy. I could get discontent and just frustrated and just forget everything. And I didn't know what all was inside of him at the time. I knew the type of person he was from, our meeting and everything, and how he's very detail oriented and very strategic and all, and that's stuff that I definitely needed. And so I shared with him, my dreams, and I don't know why I did that, but I did. And he just kicked into overtime and took me faster than I thought I was going, that I thought I needed to go. But he turned out to be exactly what I needed. He never suggested anything. He always asked me what I wanted to do and what was important to me. And, how did I need to do this? When I told him that I knew that I was going to move. He's like, okay, so what you need to do? And he just started helping me to outline things and, just kind of sat back and let me create my own path. But if I, needed assistance or whatever, he would be right there. And so he was very instrumental in helping me move, but he helped cultivate the dream that was already in me. And so, I ended up moving to West Memphis and started a whole different career path. And this was the pivotal moment. I had been harboring anger towards Arkansas State for various reasons. And so, yeah, it's kind of silly now. But I had an outstanding bill with them. And I said I wasn't going to pay it because of how they did it. It was stupid. And I felt justified in what I was saying. He said, you telling me that this one bill is holding you up from getting your enrolling in anybody's program and getting, I was like, yeah, I'm still feeling justified. And he was like, that makes sense. And when he got to talking to me like that and helping me see, that's stupid. I listened to him. I was mad at him and everything. I don't think I talked to him for a day or so. I was just like, tell me what to do. And he didn't say anything else. And I was, and it was like the Lord said, you're right. And just from that little moment, I listened to what he had to say, took care of the bill, enrolled in school the next month, and here we are 2.5 degrees later. So
come on, girl.
Yeah, the new love, he's amazing. He really is. And it's not I don't want people to think that when you leave one relationship that you're gonna automatically go into the love of your life. You're not. Because you gotta deal with you. Two, whoever you thought you were, when you run into the real deal, all of that is gonna be exposed, and you're gonna be like, wait a minute. and you're like, wait, this is not me, or this is wrong thinking, or it's so many different things that come into play when you run into the real thing.
Yeah.
Not somebody who's playing games, but someone who genuinely cares about you and about your well-being and about your future.
Oh no.
That is something that I can honestly say that he does. It doesn't matter how mad I get, how ticked off I am, because that has happened so many times, because he pushes me and I don't like being pushed. And when he does that, it challenges who I was. And it forces me to come out of that cocoon and spread those little wings. And everybody talks about the butterfly and the caterpillar and the cocoon, but the cocoon is comfortable. You get so wrapped up in, you like, what? It's dark in here, but hey, I'm cozy. This is what I know. This is what I'm used to. And when your wings start to like, what is that? And then you start to break, and it's difficult coming out of that cocoon. And so you resist it a little bit. I don't know if y'all have ever seen a version of the butterfly coming out, but it's not just automatic. It takes them a minute to come out of that cocoon. And so, with us, it's changing our mindset. And that's when I realized there was still some residue from the divorce and from the previous relationship, because I was looking at him through the lens of the former. Okay. And what I mean by that is different things that happened. I had made up in my mind that this is how men act in this capacity, or this is how men are. And I was just, content to believe in certain things. And I was jacked up for a minute. But yeah. And I know there are so many people who are even remarried, now, and they're still looking through the lens of that former hurt or that former relationship. and that's something that I am working through that I didn't know was still there. And people, why you not married? Because I'm not trying to be divorced again. So I'm working through whatever I got to work through to make sure that we're gonna be good. And because once you're divorced, you're like, okay, you know what? I ain't got time for this. And you are quicker to dismiss something than you were the first time. I don't want to do that. So yeah, taking time and being intentional about this relationship and about yes, your word, about who I am with this person and who this person makes me become, or who they see in me, and it, that's the new love. It really is new love. It's not tainted, So yeah, it's a good thing.
Congratulations,
And so now we're going to do a shameless, not so shameless plug. Okay, first before I do this, are the books still, the previous books still available? The Bliss books?
Yes, all of them. Every last one of them.
So look, if y'all are put it on now. So Rebecca, even before all of this, wrote these books called Bliss, Believing Love is Something Supernatural. And at the time I was going through my separation, divorce, I'm like, but I still want the book. I'm like, okay, I'm thinking forward before I even got out of the one thing. So I didn't get my hand on the book yet, but hold on to the copy. So anyway, looking back, let's look back. So this is the finding you part. Do you feel like all of this stuff happened so you can come full circle or 180? I don't think full circle, but 180.
Halfway.
Like all this stuff had to happen for you to be planted where you are now. That book happened before you got out and in, where you are now, the career, job, whatever.
I know that it was, all things work together for the good of them who are the called. And, I believe that wholeheartedly. I believe it even more now because I see where everything was interwoven. I wrote Bliss. I was a month divorced when I wrote the first Bliss. Oh, and I wrote it for a couples function at our church. And my motivation behind writing it was I didn't want anybody to experience the hurt and the pain that I experienced. So I wrote these things to give people tips to help them, find whatever you need to do to make sure that your marriage works. And so it was fresh out of divorce, but I wasn't on the other side. Like you said, I still hadn't processed everything, but I didn't know that this was my reason and my motivation for writing this. And I didn't have any intention of publishing it. That came 3 years later. Yeah, 4 years later, because I published in 2015. So it was 4 years later before I even published it. And that was, from Honey and my coworkers. They was like, why is this not in script? And so that's what, pushed me to publishing. And Toya hosted a conference and I was able to, share at that conference and was able to sell some books in. I still didn't realize the impact of that little book. I still looked at it as tips, and I have had so many people that have purchased the book or looked at some of the tips that I published online, and they've been able to utilize it. And so I'm very grateful, and I do believe that it was something that was to launch me to where I am now. And I started off, focusing on relationships, but that ain't what God do. He does exceeding and abundantly. And so many other talents and gifts that were lying dormant have come out and are coming out. And I'm grateful. And so that was the finding me part. Definitely. I did a workshop last year called Lose to Win. And sometimes we think that our biggest losses are the end of us when it's really the beginning of us. And so that's what it was for me. It was my loss, but it was for me to win, and so that's just where I am now. I'm just, whatever happens, I've realized that we're constantly evolving. If you are somebody who is growing, you're going to constantly change, you're going to constantly tweak, you're going to constantly develop. And so, yeah, that 180 was definitely birthed out of that pain.
You inspired me. I've been working on this project, sitting on this project called Dear Future Husband. I have a bunch of topics outlined, like 1 through 50, whatever, I don't know, but and I'm just sitting on it. And it's like, I started before I even got divorced, like, and I'm like, how can I be planning my future marriage when I ain't even out my first? Anyway.
Why should you living among the dead? Go for it.
So now what I've done on my podcast social media pages, I post little snippets like Dear Future Husband. Like, here's a little note that I would have written, that I would write. And so I don't know where God is taking it, but I'm going to follow where he leads.
Yeah.
So, hopefully sometime, one day we can get together and, do something with it and let God put his thing on it.
Absolutely. And QB, even with that, because you have that insight, like we just got through saying, I don't want to say this generation because it's not an age thing. It's just this society that we're in. Yeah. That will definitely be an aid to someone who's looking at marriage with the rosy glasses and only seeing the fun side or the frilly side. And because I'm sure you got some topics in there that are some heavy hitters that's gonna make people think. And so let that be the motivation. If nothing else, just people need to hear it. They need to read it. They need to see it.
Yeah,
it's real.
All right, so Toya, as we get ready to wrap up, y'all can believe this has been such an amazing, insightful, conversation, and I want to thank you all first of all for giving your time and sharing and being candid, and hopefully people walk away with something that I'm going to this and it's okay, but I'm going to survive and I'm going to get over it. So as we get ready to wrap up, any final words you would like to share? A piece of advice.
Okay. From just my personal experience is to find you. Mm-hmm. Because when you find you, you can love who you are.
Yes.
And that's a big thing that I dealt with, is finding myself, finding out who is Toya. What do Toya want to do? What do Toya want to accomplish? And when I started accomplishing things, I started to love myself more. Mm-hmm. I got to congratulate myself more, and I, got to looking at myself in the mirror. I love you, because a lot of women may face those times in a marriage where they feel like they can't love themselves because everything around them consumes them, and that's how I felt. I didn't have time for me, and now those I would like to tell the women out there that may be facing struggles in their marriage, find you, find who you are, find the love that you have for yourself, because that's the number one factor. Because if you can't love you, you can't put love into nothing else.
Nothing else.
Okay.
Yes.
And that's a true fact. You can't put love into anything, nothing else. One other thing is mindset is everything.
Yeah.
Get in your mind and set a goal. Though single, married, divorced, set a goal to see what you want to accomplish in your life. And once you set that goal and get your mindset with it, and it's combined, that's one accord right there. That is one accord. And you can start getting things, succeeding things, and watching things accumulate that you didn't think you could, because, now that your mind is set and your goals are set, now you can accomplish everything. Because if your mind set and you got your goals set down, your whole focus right there is going to be, okay, I need to get this situated. Okay, wake up, I got to do this. Or wake up, I got to do that. I got to set this right so I can have that future that I desire. Not what everybody else sees, but what's for me, what
Yes,
I desire. You know, nobody
absolutely.
telling what this is how you should be. No, no, no. This is how I want to be. This is what I desire to be. You know, and have love for you. You got to have love for you. Because if you can't love yourself, nobody else can.
Nobody else can.
Nobody else can. Can't nobody love you like you can love yourself. I promise you
Yes,
they can't.
wow.
So
Lord.
yes.
Wow. I want to leave this, and this is what I've been hearing from you all. Healing,
Healing.
process. Take time to process. Don't just jump in and out of one next thing. And like Toya mentioned, you jump from one thing to the next before the one was over, and it was not. It was not conducive. It didn't produce anything. For me, I have put this ice cage literally around my heart. Anyone who tried to talk to me, even after I got divorced, I was like blocking everything. I'm like, I'm not.
I promise you will.
It wasn't until I joined the writing healing circle with a bunch of other ladies that I started to soften and start to find me. When I started my podcast, I started finding me a little more. But for me, I'm a writer. So writing is what helped to heal me. And then in the midst of that, I got a therapist as well. And when I tell you some of the old stuff start popping up, like, is this really still here?
Yes.
Yeah. Trust I know.
I'm telling
Yeah.
you.
So,
Oh,
Lord have mercy, Jesus.
It
All right,
comes up.
so Rebecca, final words, a couple words of encouragement. What would you say to anyone who's
Everything
going
Toya said, I mean, ditto to everything Toya said. Finding you is definitely important.
I promise you.
And I'm going to say this to those who are wanting to be married. Talk to somebody that's been divorced. Not the bitter, angry, men hater, women hater, whatever. But talk to somebody who has been divorced and you see them healthy and healed. Ask them some questions.
Exactly.
A couple of things, okay? What to do, what not to do. And so just don't limit yourself to only talking to married people when you are preparing for marriage, because you need to know all aspects. And then finding you is not, because that's trending too. It's not cliche. It really is figuring out what you want and desire and aligning with God's plan for your life. Not what your mama said, what the elder in the church prayed over you.
There you go. Come on now.
Prophesied last year. What is it that God has given you? And you, only you and God know what that is.
Exactly.
And then set those goals, like Toya said, and go for it. Do not let anybody or anything stop you. Children, job, education, nothing. If that is the plan and the will of God for your life, go for it.
Amen.
Right. Ladies, look, thank y'all so much. No eyeliner was threatened.
No. I don't think it was.
No mascara.
I didn't got shed one tear.
Look, that's when you know you have gone to the other side. And you are healed more. Like, any tears you shed are like tears of just reflection. They're not hurtful.
Yes, ma'am.
It's joy.
Honey, look. If my little short legs can move, we could tear this floor up. Anyway, I have enjoyed you ladies, and this would not be our last conversation. We're going to have to come back and talk about our careers and entrepreneurship and whatever else in between. So I want to thank you, ladies, so very much.
Thank you, honey.
Yes.
I want to thank everyone for listening, supporting the Q Spot podcast. So go to all the social media and podcast platforms, do all the things. And so you don't miss a beat, join the Q crew. Don't forget to be intentional with your words, your thoughts, and your actions. And pink sugar kisses, y'all. Have a great day. Thank you for watching the Q Spot podcast video series. Don't forget to join the Q crew so you don't miss a beat. Follow, like, and share on all of my social media platforms, as well as the major podcast platforms. Lastly, be intentional with your words, your thoughts, and your actions.